laying on the ground close to him, choking. And he said, "Oh, Dad, you know if I dial 911, I'm going to lose my AOL connection. I'm going to lose my connection." And how many remember the days that when if you dialed a phone number, you always got a busy signal? And you tried calling over and over. You know, usually now they have that call waiting. You know, most cell phones, you can see who's calling in. You got the caller ID and this call waiting and all that stuff. So, but back years ago, during the days of technology, you called and you got a busy signal, or you just missed them, or you keep getting a busy signal, and this and that happens, and you leave a message after message, and you never get in. As a matter of fact, what I do for a living, I work for Alabama Power, and I have what I do is antenna placement for communications. So we have to have the right antennas in the right location to communicate with our electrical grid. And that's basically what I do. I decide where antennas go. And the reason I tell you this, without proper communication and without all this fancy stuff that we have today, like fiber optics and high-speed internets, it's hard for us to communicate with the world and with one another. But you know something about God? He's always there. You don't have to have fiber optic communication. You don't have to have an antenna, although raising your hands do help, you know. You don't have to have all this fancy equipment, because God is always there. You know, have you ever wondered how busy life gets? Life is extremely busy. And there was a movie several years ago, starred Jim Carrey. It was called Bruce Almighty. Anybody see it? Of course, I saw it. Some thought it was kind of sacrilegious, some didn't. I thought it was funny. But it was basically, he was given the powers to be like God for a period of time. And he was getting all these prayer requests. And it was basically coming in on a computer. So basically he said, say yes to all. And it was answering all these prayer requests with a yes. So what happened is thousands of people won the lottery. You know, there wasn't enough money to go around to pay all these people. It was, you know, people were getting healed. All these miracles were happening because the answer was always yes. He just said, say yes to all, because they were so many. Now think about it. If you were God, and my brother right here prays for a friend of his, and this brother does, and this sister does, and that sister does, all at one time, all these communications coming in to the same ears. For me, it would be confusing to understand. For me, because I'm only a human. But one thing about God, he hears every individual prayer. He hears every cry. And I mean to the detail. He knows what you prayed about. He knows what I prayed about, what y'all prayed about. And he hears it all. He knows what's on our hearts and on our minds. But have you ever wondered how busy God is just answering prayer? I got some statistics right here. Let me read this to you. Right now, if you consider the expansion of the universe, it's driven by a cosmological constant. A change in its value by one mere part in 10,120 parts will cause the universe to expand too rapidly or too slowly. In either case, it would probably destroy the earth. But don't worry, because God's in control. We're currently orbiting around the sun. The earth is orbiting around the sun at 67,000 miles per hour. And spinning 1,040 miles per hour at the equator. But don't worry, God's in control. 353,000 babies will be born today. As an adult, we make up 7 octillion atoms. 7 octillion, that's 27 zeros. 7 with 27 zeros. 7 octillion atoms you have as an adult. That's a merely 300 billion stars in our galaxy. Humans shed about 40 pounds of skin in their lifetime, believe that or not. 40 pounds of skin in their lifetime, completely replacing their outer skin every month. So in the next 30 days, God's providing you with an entirely new coat. God's in control. So we compare and contrast our calendars and responsibilities with God. He's a little busier. You know, we think our life's busy. He's a lot busier than we are. But he still hears every prayer. He still hears every cry. You know, all through the Bible, we hear the term that God's presence is near. That word presence is a Hebrew word, panim, and it's translated as face. In other words, God is in your face. He's that close. He's so close, he's always near. He's in your face. His presence is so near, he's understanding. Matter of fact, if I stood back here and all of y'all were talking, I couldn't hear everybody's conversation, but if I'm in your face, I hear you, brother. That's the way God is. God is an in-your-face God. He's an on-time God, and he's always in control. Always in control. Those statistics, I got offline, and I thought they were awesome. But let's just remember about how communications were back years ago. It was, you know, the dial-up thing was crazy. It took you minutes to finally get connected. Took, you know, forever. If somebody called, you got disconnected. But now we have days of high-speed fiber optics. We have days of cable internet and no busy connection. Everybody's always connected. But, you know, there's good news. There's always connection to God. There's always a connection to God. You never get a busy signal. His lines are never tied up. Circuits never go down or go out of commission. And you get through the very first time on every try. You always, because he's an on-time God and he's in your face. His presence is ever present and he's always with you. As a matter of fact, there's an old song. Jesus on the main line. Tell him what you want. Remember that? Jesus on the main line. Tell him what you want. Jesus on the main line. Tell him what you want. How does it go? Call him up and tell him what you want. So he's always, and it said on the main line. That's kind of like the presidential line. You know, the president has a special line that's connected to all the rulers of the world. All the rulers of the world. If the Queen of England wanted to call the president, she has his special number. You know, the Bible tells us in Jeremiah 33:3, call unto me, and I will answer thee. And I'll give you great and mighty things. I'll show you great and mighty things that you know not. He said to call unto me, and I will answer you, and give you great and mighty things that you don't know. Matter of fact, the next verse to that song says, his line is never busy. Tell him what you want. Ain't you glad his line's never busy? His line is never busy. Tell him what you want. Sing it with me. His line is never busy. Tell him what you want. Call him up and tell him what you want. Ain't it wonderful that God's line's never busy? So if you want to know God's special phone number, you know, all these kings and rulers have a special phone number for the president, and they have a long phone number for each other. Just think about Jeremiah 33:3. Type that in. Man, call unto me. It's a hotline to God because his line is never busy. You can tell him what you want. Tell him what you want. Tell him that you love him. You know, that's one way we become friends. I remember the first day I walked in this church, and it was a divine appointment. I was actually headed to the Church of the Highlands that day. It was on Mother's Day. Some of y'all may remember the first day I came here. But I passed by, and I seen a sign out there. And I told the kids, no, we're going here. Pulled in, been ever since. And it was a divine appointment. But when I came in, I felt at home. Everybody greeted me. It was like I felt the love. But you know how I became your friend? Because I think all of y'all are my friends. We may not hang out one another every day, but I want you all to come to my house for dinner sometime. I want to invite every one of you. Some of you have been, some of you have not. But I want you all to come. You know, our pastor talked about, breaking the fence. Remember that? I want everybody, because you are my family, you are my friends. But how we became friends is through lines of communication. We talked. Some of you are my friends on Facebook and social media. But you know what? I like a friend I can get a hug from. You know what I mean? I like hugs, don't y'all? Yeah. Matter of fact, I did a wedding the other day, and as soon as I walked in, the bride said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here. I was so worried you wasn't showing up." I said, well, give me a hug. She said, I like hugs. I said, well, I do too. I like hugs. You know, that's how friendships begin. Friendships begin with a handshake, and I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you, brother. Yeah, and when friendships begin, you open up lines of communication, and you'll tell those people your problems because you want them praying for you, or you'll tell them your problems, right? That's how friendships begin. So I want to be God's friend. I want to open up lines of communication to Him all the time. Amen? His line is never busy. I want to tell Him what I want. His line is never busy. I want to tell Him what I need. His line is never busy. I want to pray for my friends because I'm going to call Him up and I'm going to tell Him what I want. I'm going to call Him up and tell Him what I want. So God is so awesome. He has got to be the busiest person in the universe, listening to all the cries. Think about the person that's fixing to slam on their brakes because somebody just cut in front of them, and they're fixing to hit, and they say, "Oh, God, help me." He's an on-time God. You ever been to the point where you had to slam on your brakes, and if it wasn't for that guardian angel there being there? Think about the person we hear about all these people being beheaded over in the Middle East that ISIS is trying to kill them. You know, he's still there for them. He may just answer the prayer in a different way. Hey, I need you home. You understand? Sometimes our answer is not like Bruce Almighty, yes. Sometimes God says no. You know, it's just like I take every Saturday, my daughter and I, we have what we call Daddy Day. It's been like that since birth. I let my wife sleep in, and I take my daughter. We go to eat breakfast. She chooses Golden Corral because she likes the chocolate fountain buffet, you know. But that's where she saw the commercial with Jeff Foxworthy. Oh, Golden Corral. So we go to the Golden Corral. She eats breakfast. We go swimming at the gym because there's indoor pool. And we spend all day long together. It's Daddy Day for her. We have a great time. And, you know, that's the way God wants you to spend Daddy Day with Him. And that's every day. Not just a time when hey, oh, I need you, God. He wants you to say, I love you, Daddy. Well, I love it when my children tell me they love me. Don't you? And I was saying a minute ago, when sometimes when the answer's no, sometimes Sarah on Daddy Day will go, you know, maybe shopping because I do grocery shopping and stuff, or, you know, for household stuff. And she'll say, Daddy, I want this. And I know she don't need it. No, baby. But Daddy, I want it. No, baby, you can't have it today. It's because I know she don't need it. You know, it may be junk food or it may be a toy that's $1 at Dollar Tree, and I know it's fixing to fall apart, as soon as you get in the car. Sometimes we don't understand God's answers. I saw a cartoon, a little artist depiction of that at one point in time. It was Jesus leaning over to a little girl who had his hand behind his back, and she's got a little bitty stuffed animal, and he's trying to take it from her. And she's saying, but I love it. But she didn't know behind his back, he had a big old brand new fluffy teddy bear. See, we don't know sometimes God's answers sometimes are a little different than what we request for. Back in 2005, I found out on a Friday that my mother had pancreatic cancer. We were praying all week long for her, and the next Friday she was gone. It's a very traumatic time in my life. I questioned God. I said, God, why did you not answer my prayer? He said, I did. You prayed for her to be perfect. You prayed for her complete healing. You prayed for my will to be done. She's in glory land, running the streets of gold. I could never wish her back for that. God answered my prayer just in a different way. And God answers all of our prayers in different ways. We don't really understand it. Matter of fact, if Psalms 139, verse 7 and 8 says this, where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, and it's one version it says in Sheol, which is hell, it says you are there. So in the King James it says, if I make my bed in hell, you are there. In other words, God is absolutely everywhere. He's an in-your-face, in-your-presence God, no matter what. You remember the old poem about the footprints in the sand? He said a guy had a dream. He said, I saw two sets of footprints. And in the darkest part of my life, there was only one set. Where were you at, God, during that time? And the answer came back, it was then I was carrying you. It was then I was carrying you. See, we don't understand. God sees the big picture. He knows so many here's the way a friend of mine put it one time. God sees in 7 dimensions. This is what he said. Preacher friend. He said, we know what was in our past. We see what's in our present. We don't know what's in our future, but we see our height, our width, and our depth. God sees all the above, plus he sees our future. He knows what's good for us. He knows what's best for us. And he knows how to mold us into what he wants things to happen. Sometimes we go through problems and trials and troubles and tribulations.